Okay, so today we're at the Bluff Fort Monument. It's really cool here. It's not quite what I envisioned the fort to be, but it's really sweet. We're gonna check it out. I'm standing by the log meeting house right now. This is what it looks like. So let's see what it's got to tell me. So that was their meeting house. Sounds like it had a lot of monumental value to them. Sounds like it wasn't an easy life out here in the beginning of when people first started coming out here. It's really cool to be here and to know that people went through a lot to get here. No, looks like it might be a house. Bunch of birds that are around here. It must have been what the early houses looked like. Just small one-room houses that you could raise a small family in, sleep at night. I can only imagine how hard it would have been back in the early days to have built a cabin by hand, just with your son or your wife's help, raise a family. Here's Lemuel Red's cabin. Got a really rustic sewing machine. Just amazing to think that like people are such good builders. Like if you asked me to build a house like this, I don't think I could do that for you. Just amazing that they used what they had, got the best of it. Just their wagons how they needed them. This is James M. Red cabin. Kind of interesting to see that most of these cabins are pretty much the same. All these families just live together. They had to live in the fort for fear of Native American attacks at the time. And they all had to work together to keep each other safe and to keep alive. Here's a lot of their tools. Some plows right here. Looks like some stuff to scrape up rocks. Maybe a drag. Small rake or planter. A lot of old tools. This is the blacksmith shop. Very antique tools. Big old bellows. To work in a blacksmith shop, even now, is hard, but I can only imagine using the primitive tools that they had at the time and making your own horseshoes, forging all your own metal. I mean, this must have been like, look at that, hand-forged oxen shoes. This must have been a heck of a job. Probably had some big muscles doing this. Here's the blacksmith's wagon. This is, you'd sit on that seat back there, and then you'd push these little pedals down there, and it'd spin that wheel. And that wheel, you put your blade of your axe or something like that, your knife on there, and it'd sharpen it. So the peacemaker, I don't know if that means that he's the sheriff or a lawmaker. Just amazing that they used all their natural resources, built their own house, used their own concrete. I'm sure they had to get the windows shipped in, and that would have been a spendy price, because to get anything out this far, I mean, at the time this was built, it was in the middle of nowhere. They had just a light fence to protect them. So this is a missionary and scout. This is Hobbs' siblings' cabin. Just amazing they used what they had. They probably had to carry these quilts all the way across the entire place from Utah, all the way across the desert or snow, depending on the time of year, just so they could have a nice warm blanket when they got here. This is Baudil and Janes Jr. Must have been very cold in the winter here. This one has a little bit nicer things, like a writing desk, drawers. That was like the Martin Handcart Company. Came from Utah, or to Utah. Just a lot of interesting stuff here. It's amazing to see how good a craftsman these people were as well. Like, they really did a lot of good stuff. This is the traditional pioneer orchard. My house is situated in an area where the pioneers or some original settlers came, so I actually have a very large orchard in my backyard. It's kind of cool to think that maybe someone on their way through Nevada passed by and planted an orchard, or when they decided that was going to be their home, they decided that might as well plant an orchard there. Those are some cool old books. I think it's very rare that, and kind of surprising, that people had any books, considering the length that they had to travel, and most of them probably weren't very educated. Here's some old tools: pitchforks, shovels, saw, hoe. Just everything you need for your daily survival. This is Hanson Bale's cabin. It's amazing how like every cabin, even though they are built relatively the same, they all have their own things. Like this one, those are some original sheep shears. So you can get all the wool off the sheep. That's a scythe. Very hard, or it's used to cut hay. Would have taken a lot of time to cut hay with a scythe. Now we have big, huge tractors. Just amazing these people would come all the way out here and do what they did. There's an old trumpet. It's pretty cool. This looks like a little schoolhouse. There's another trumpet, a small child's violin, and there's slates and everything you need to have school. A couple books. Looks like some skates of sorts. So this is the Barton cabin. This is the West Hall of Bluff Fort. There's like a feeding trough they use out of a hollowed log. Here's the well. Of course, I think most of this is just replication. Some of this is probably original. Looks pretty old. This is the Joseph Barton original family cabin. So this must have been like one of the original ones. So here's probably where they would have slept. Just had a few little things. It's interesting to see that back then, like, they didn't have much. Whatever you could carry is what you could get. Old stove. That's actually a pretty nice stove for being way the heck out here. And this is kind of like probably maybe part of living quarters or like a barn. And then right back in here probably was like an actual barn. It's all held together by wires and stuff. And then we have all these wagons. Covered wagon was very popular at the time. Many people would come through. And I think this little wire right here, what they do is every certain amount of times this wire went around the entire wheel was a mile. So they'd have someone sit there and they'd count how many times that wire went around. so they knew how far they'd gone. And this was their brake. They'd pull a lever, and that piece of wood would go up against that tire right there, and it'd force it to stop. Here's the handle. This looks like what you'd probably see when you were camping in a wagon. Just have a couple little things, maybe a little, looks like they had a little shaving mirror right there. Little shaving mirror, little stove, chest to keep all your belongings, oil lamp. Just a few things that you need every day to keep going. Also, big old cooking pot. I think a lot of times these little places like this could also be vendors, just traveling people that sold wares that people needed way out here. So this is the wagon encampment display. This is Frederick Jones and Mary M. Jones' house. As you can tell, they have a little bit more than some of the other people. Kept some harnesses in here. Had a nice rug. They just had all kinds of stuff in here. I'm not quite sure what this is, but I think it might be a coffee bean grinder. I think you put the stuff up in there and you grind it and it'd come out down there. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that might be its purpose. Here's that other cabin. Samuel Wood, Joseph C. Wood, Aunt Jody, and Emma E. Wood. As you can tell, a lot of people had to put their regular riding and barn tools inside their houses because they didn't really have much else to put it. This right here is to beat your rugs off. Because I mean, your rugs get very dirty and you had to have something to get them all cleaned out. There's this little monument. Back there at that cultural hall, it told us a lot of kids died at a very young age when they came here. And I can see why. I mean, it was just a hard life. Like, this was a very hard time and kind of remote place to live. It was not easy going for them. So there's an outhouse. Liberty pole. Wagon. There's some little things here and there. Looks like this would be their well. Not quite sure what this is. And here's like water wheel. Water turns it. And the water comes all the way down in these shafts. Right down there into that pool. That's kind of what the Americans lived in. All those cabins. And then here's like a teepee. So this is a traditional Ute home site. There's not really much here, just some food, some blankets. This is a Navajo home site. I've actually read a lot about the Navajos. They had some really cool things. And these houses were pretty complicated to make. But I can stand straight up in the middle of it. Got your mats for you to sleep on. Some pictures. They had their little cook stove. Or they might just build a fire in the center and that hole up there, let all the smoke go out. There's their looms. Thank you guys for coming along this little tour with me. If you guys are ever coming through this area, it's in Bluff, Utah. It's free, you can get it for free. It's really cool here. It's just amazing to see what the pioneers did. They are the Hole in the Rock pioneers, and the reason is because when they were coming up the mountains, there was this little slit, and they had to blast and dig it all the way out so they can get their wagons from the top of the mountain down to the bottom. So it's really cool to see the engineering feats that they had, and that they were able to build these little cabins and do all this stuff. Thank you guys for watching Beyond the Screen Outdoors. Remember to get outside. Thanks for watching Beyond the Screen Outdoors, and remember to get outside.